The flight was bustling with passengers, a blend of excitement and exhaustion hanging in the air. Amid the chatter, a sharp, cold voice sliced through the cabin, commanding attention. "Sir, I've told you already. You can't place that bag here. Find another spot," snapped the flight attendant, her tone curt and dismissive. Passengers exchanged uneasy glances, their discomfort palpable. Little did anyone know, this seemingly ordinary moment of rudeness would unravel a shocking truth, leaving everyone, including the attendant herself, in utter disbelief. What could possibly lie behind this cold exterior, and how would it all come to light? Jessica Turner was a picture of poise on the surface, her uniform always immaculate, her hair neatly tied back. But behind the perfectly rehearsed smile lay a woman carrying the weight of personal battles that shaped her aloof demeanor. She grew up in a small town in Texas, the eldest of 3 siblings. Her father, a strict military man, and her mother, a homemaker, often bore the brunt of his stern discipline. Jessica's childhood was devoid of warmth. Love was something earned, not freely given. She learned to equate success with approval and failure with rejection. This upbringing instilled in her a rigid sense of control and a reluctance to show vulnerability. In her early 20s, Jessica pursued a degree in hospitality management. She dreamed of traveling the world, escaping the small-town life that felt like a cage. Becoming a flight attendant seemed like the perfect opportunity, offering the freedom she craved. However, the glamour she had envisioned quickly faded. The job was grueling, and the constant interaction with demanding passengers tested her patience daily. Over time, the cheerful, ambitious young woman was replaced by someone hardened, her kindness eroded by years of thankless work and personal disappointments. Her brusque behavior stemmed from a deep fear of inadequacy. She believed that projecting authority would shield her from criticism or vulnerability. Beneath her stern exterior was a longing for connection, a yearning she rarely acknowledged even to herself. Her ultimate goal was to save enough money to start a business, a way out of the job that had begun to feel like a trap. Jessica's internal conflict revolved around her fear of vulnerability. Her rude behavior was a defense mechanism, a way to maintain control in an environment where she often felt powerless. The turning point came when her true identity, a secret she had painstakingly hidden, was inadvertently revealed. The resulting confrontation forced her to reassess her values and the walls she had built around herself. Through a series of interactions with passengers and colleagues, Jessica began to recognize the harm her behavior caused and took steps to rebuild trust and embrace compassion. Mark Davis was an easygoing man in his late 30s, a frequent flyer and a firm believer in treating everyone with kindness. However, Mark's patience was tested during the flight when Jessica's rude behavior directly affected him. Mark was a schoolteacher from Chicago, known among his peers and students for his sunny disposition and knack for turning challenges into opportunities. Raised by a single mother who worked tirelessly to provide for him and his siblings, Mark learned the value of empathy and resilience early in life. He was traveling on this particular flight to attend a family reunion. The trip held emotional significance. It was the first time in years his entire family would gather under one roof since his mother's passing. The thought of reconnecting with his siblings filled him with both excitement and apprehension. Mark's primary motivation was to honor his mother's memory by fostering unity among his siblings. His calm and understanding nature often put him in the role of peacemaker, a responsibility he embraced wholeheartedly. Jessica's dismissive attitude challenged Mark's usual patience. He initially tried to let it slide, attributing her behavior to a stressful day. However, when her actions began to affect other passengers, Mark decided to step in. His confrontation with Jessica was not out of anger, but an attempt to hold her accountable and remind her of the impact of her actions. This interaction played a pivotal role in Jessica's eventual realization of her behavior. Sophia was Jessica's junior colleague, a bright and cheerful young woman who admired Jessica's professionalism, but often felt overshadowed by her stern demeanor. Sophia was fresh out of training, eager to make a mark in her new role. She came from a close-knit family in Oregon, where kindness and community were core values. Unlike Jessica, Sophia viewed the job's challenges as opportunities to grow and connect with people. Her primary goal was to excel in her career while staying true to her values. She saw Jessica as a mentor figure, despite their contrasting approaches to the job. Sophia's genuine care for passengers and colleagues often highlighted the stark difference between her attitude and Jessica's. Sophia struggled with speaking up against Jessica's behavior, fearing it might strain their working relationship. However, an incident during the flight pushed Sophia to confront her mentor, respectfully yet firmly addressing the issue. Her courage and kindness became a catalyst for Jessica's transformation, showing her that strength lay in empathy, not authority. Eleanor was a retired psychologist in her 70s, traveling to meet her grandchildren. Her calm demeanor and sharp observational skills allowed her to see through Jessica's facade. Eleanor had spent decades helping people navigate their emotional struggles. Widowed in her 40s, she raised 2 children on her own while building a successful practice. She believed in the power of kindness and often used her travels as an opportunity to connect with strangers and learn their stories. When she noticed Jessica's rudeness, she didn't react with irritation but with curiosity, sensing there was more to the story. Subtly but effectively, Eleanor challenged Jessica's behavior, using gentle conversations to peel back the layers of her defensiveness. Her role in the story was pivotal, as she became the mirror through which Jessica saw her true self and began her journey toward change. Sophia was Jessica's junior colleague, a bright and cheerful young woman who admired Jessica's professionalism but often felt overshadowed by her stern demeanor. Fresh out of training, Sophia was eager to make her mark in her new role. She came from a close-knit family in Oregon, where kindness and community were core values. Unlike Jessica, Sophia viewed the job's challenges as opportunities to grow and connect with people. Her primary goal was to excel in her career while staying true to her values. Sophia saw Jessica as a mentor figure, despite their contrasting approaches to the job. Sophia's genuine care for passengers and colleagues often highlighted the stark difference between her attitude and Jessica's. She struggled with speaking up against Jessica's behavior, fearing it might strain their working relationship. But an incident during the flight pushed Sophia to confront her mentor, respectfully but firmly addressing the issue. Her courage and kindness became the catalyst for Jessica's transformation, showing her that strength lay in empathy, not authority. Eleanor, a retired psychologist in her 70s, was traveling to meet her grandchildren. Her calm demeanor and sharp observational skills allowed her to see through Jessica's facade. Eleanor had spent decades helping people navigate their emotional struggles. Widowed in her 40s, she raised 2 children on her own while building a successful practice. She believed in the power of kindness and often used her travels as an opportunity to connect with strangers and learn their stories. When Eleanor noticed Jessica's rudeness, she didn't react with irritation, but with curiosity, sensing there was more to the story. Eleanor subtly but effectively challenged Jessica's behavior, using gentle conversations to peel back the layers of her defensiveness. Her role in the story was pivotal, as she became the mirror through which Jessica saw her true self and began her journey toward change. The airplane cabin, narrow and bustling, was a microcosm of society. Rows of closely packed seats stretched down the length of the aircraft, with the central aisle where flight attendants moved swiftly, juggling requests and maintaining order. Overhead bins creaked open and shut as passengers struggled to fit their carry-ons, while the faint hum of the engines created a constant backdrop. The scent of recycled air mingled with traces of coffee, stale perfume, and the faint metallic tang of the airplane's interior. Personal boundaries were blurred, and strangers were forced into uncomfortable proximity. This tension added to the atmosphere, creating a sense of anticipation for what was to unfold. Before takeoff, the cabin was a blend of activity and stillness. Passengers stowed their belongings, adjusted their seatbelts, and settled into their seats. The sunlight filtered through the small oval windows, casting fragmented patterns on the cabin walls. Jessica, the lead flight attendant, moved methodically through the rows. Her interactions were curt, her tone devoid of warmth. Passengers exchanged uneasy glances, sensing her irritation but choosing to stay silent. The atmosphere was charged with a subtle tension, an unspoken discomfort that rippled through the cabin. As the airplane ascended, the cabin transformed into a self-contained world. The hum of the engines grew louder, punctuated by occasional turbulence that sent a ripple of unease through the passengers. The overhead lights cast a soft glow, contrasting with the darkness outside the windows where clouds drifted past like ghostly apparitions. The meal service began, bringing a brief burst of activity. The clinking of cutlery and the murmur of conversations filled the air. Jessica's interactions highlighted the stark contrast between her polished exterior and the underlying frustration that seeped into her words. Her terse instructions and occasional eye rolls didn't go unnoticed, creating an undercurrent of resentment among the passengers. Sophia, with nervous energy, moved around, her smile genuine but hesitant. She struggled to balance her duties with the growing unease she felt toward Jessica's behavior. The cabin, though compact, became a stage for these interpersonal dynamics, with every movement and interaction contributing to the unfolding drama. Midway through the flight, Jessica retreated to the small flight attendant lounge at the back of the plane. The space was stark, with metallic walls and a small counter cluttered with cups and half-empty bottles of water. The hum of the engines was louder here, creating a sense of isolation from the main cabin. Jessica leaned against the counter, her shoulders slumped. The veneer of control she maintained in the cabin began to crack in the solitude of the lounge. The harsh fluorescent lights reflected off her face, emphasizing the weariness in her eyes. Sophia entered moments later, her cheerful demeanor faltering as she sensed Jessica's tension. Their interaction in this confined space revealed both conflict and the potential for understanding. The central aisle became the focal point of a confrontation between Jessica and Mark Davis, a passenger who had been quietly observing her behavior. Jessica stood rigid, her tone sharp, as she addressed Mark's complaint. The tension in her voice matched the tightness in her posture, her body language defensive and unyielding. Mark, on the other hand, exuded calm determination. His measured tone and firm gaze contrasted with Jessica's escalating frustration. The argument drew the attention of the entire cabin, further escalating the tension. Outside the airplane, the view was serene and expansive. Fluffy white clouds stretched out like an endless sea, their edges tinged with golden sunlight. The vastness of the sky served as a stark contrast to the cramped and tense environment inside the cabin. It was a silent reminder of the larger world beyond the immediate conflicts, a symbol of perspective and possibility. Eleanor often gazed out of the window during the flight, finding solace in the view. Her calm demeanor and thoughtful observations provided a grounding presence in the story, a counterbalance to the tension brewing inside the cabin. As the airplane began its descent, the cabin's atmosphere shifted. The tension that had built up during the flight gave way to a collective anticipation. Passengers fastened their seatbelts, their movements hurried but purposeful. The announcement from the cockpit echoed through the cabin, signaling the nearing end of the journey. For Jessica, the descent marked more than just the end of the flight. It was the beginning of a personal reckoning. The events that unfolded during the journey had left her shaken, forcing her to confront the walls she had built around herself. The cabin, once a space of control and authority for her, became a crucible for transformation. The airplane cabin, with its confined space and diverse occupants, served as a microcosm of human interaction. It was a setting where personal boundaries were tested, conflicts arose, and resolutions were forged. The sensory details of the cabin, the hum of the engines, the soft glow of the overhead lights, the scent of reheated meals, immersed the reader in the world of the story, making it a palpable backdrop for the characters' emotional journeys. Through its rich and immersive atmosphere, the setting not only supported the mood and themes of the narrative, but also amplified its impact, leaving a lasting impression on both the characters and the audience. Eleanor's words act as a turning point for Jessica. She returns to the cabin with a visible shift in her demeanor, subtle but significant. When the young mother from earlier hesitates to ask for help, Jessica approaches her with genuine kindness, offering to warm a bottle for her baby. Passengers, initially skeptical, notice the change and respond with gratitude. Sophia, observing Jessica's transformation, feels emboldened to approach her. In a heartfelt conversation during a break, Sophia shares how much she admires Jessica's professionalism, but expresses her concern about the emotional distance she maintains from passengers and colleagues. Jessica listens intently, for once choosing not to react defensively. The conversation marks the beginning of a mutual understanding between the two, strengthening their working relationship. As the flight nears its destination, a curious passenger recognizes Jessica from a news article he read years ago. The article detailed the story of a young woman whose family endured a public legal battle involving allegations of abuse and neglect. The passenger discreetly mentions this to Mark, who is taken aback by the connection. When the plane lands and passengers begin to disembark, Mark approaches Jessica. Instead of confronting her about her past, he simply says, "I hope you find the peace you deserve." His words carry no judgment, only genuine empathy, leaving Jessica momentarily speechless. After the passengers leave, Jessica lingers in the empty cabin, reflecting on the events of the flight. She realizes how her unresolved pain and defensive walls have not only affected her, but also those around her. The revelation about her mother's therapy, coupled with the compassion shown by Eleanor, Mark, and Sophia, ignites a desire to change. Jessica decides to seek help, reaching out to a counselor for the first time. She also begins to rebuild her relationship with her colleagues, especially Sophia, who becomes both a confidant and a friend. Over time, Jessica learns to balance professionalism with empathy, transforming her approach to her work and interactions. They're the airplane cabin during boarding. Jessica encounters Mark Davis trying to stow his bag in an overhead bin. Jessica: "Sir, I've told you twice already that overhead bin is reserved for emergency equipment. You'll have to find another one." Mark: "I understand, but there's no room in the other bins. Maybe we can figure out a solution together?" Jessica: "That's not my job, sir. Please move it, or I'll have to call someone to assist you." Mark: "There's no need for that. I'll handle it myself. Thank you for your guidance." Jessica: "Good. I'll be back to check everything is secured." A quiet moment in the flight attendant lounge after the first round of meal service. Sophia: "Jessica, can I talk to you for a second?" Jessica: "If it's about those passengers in row 12, they'll get over it." Sophia: "Actually, it's about us. I mean, how we're handling things out there. I feel like people are upset." Jessica: "Upset? Sophia, this isn't summer camp. People complain. It's part of the job." Sophia: "I get that. But maybe we could try a different approach? A little more understanding?" Jessica: "Look, I've been doing this for 10 years. You're new. You'll learn that being nice doesn't always work." Sophia: "Maybe. But kindness doesn't make you weak, Jessica." Jessica: "Let's just get through this flight." For the central aisle during the meal service, Mark decides to address Jessica's behavior after witnessing her snap at another passenger. Mark: "Excuse me, ma'am, can we talk?" Jessica. Is there a problem with your meal? Mark. No, the meal's fine. The problem is how you're treating people. Jessica. I'm doing my job, sir. If you have a complaint, you can fill out a feedback form after the flight. Mark. This isn't about forms. It's about respect. That elderly gentleman in 16C, he didn't deserve to be dismissed like that. Jessica. I don't have time to debate with you. If you'd like, I can call the purser. Mark. Or you could take a breath and think about why you're so defensive. Jessica. I'm not defensive, I'm... Mark. Human. Just like the rest of us. The back lounge after Eleanor collapses and recovers. She asks for a private conversation with Jessica. Eleanor. Jessica, thank you for helping me back there. Jessica. Just doing my job, ma'am. You should rest. Eleanor. You remind me of someone I knew once. A woman who carried the world on her shoulders but never let anyone see the strain. Jessica. I don't know what you mean. Eleanor. I think you do. Your eyes, your tone. They speak of someone who's been hurt deeply. Jessica. I don't know what you're implying, but I'm fine. Always have been. Eleanor. Jessica, I knew your mother. She came to me for help years ago. She spoke about you, a little girl trying to shield her siblings from things no child should face. Jessica. You knew her? Eleanor. Yes. And I see her strength in you. But strength doesn't mean shutting everyone out. Jessica. I don't know how to be any other way. Eleanor. Start by letting people in. The crew area during a lull in the flight. Sophia. Jessica, can I say something? Jessica. I suppose you will anyway. Sophia. You're not as tough as you pretend to be. Jessica. Excuse me? Sophia. I mean it as a compliment. Today, when you helped Eleanor, I saw someone who cares. You just don't show it often. Jessica. Caring hasn't exactly worked out for me. Sophia. That doesn't mean you stop trying. People here, passengers, crew, we'd respond differently if we saw the real you. Jessica. I don't even know who that is anymore. Sophia. Then maybe it's time to find out. The plane lands and passengers begin to disembark. Mark approaches Jessica one last time. Mark. Jessica, I wanted to thank you. Jessica. Thank me? For what? Mark. For listening. Even if it didn't seem like it, I think you took something away from today. Jessica. Maybe, and I might have been a little harsh. Mark. A little? Don't worry, I think you'll figure it out. Jessica. Thanks for not judging. Mark. We're all just doing our best. Take care, Jessica. The empty cabin after passengers disembark. Jessica speaks to Sophia while tidying up. Sophia. That's it. Another flight in the books. Jessica. Sophia, about what you said earlier. Sophia. Yeah? Jessica. You're right. I've been difficult. I think I owe some people apologies, starting with you. Sophia. You don't owe me anything, Jessica. But I appreciate it. Jessica. Maybe there's hope for me yet. The passengers on the flight represent a microcosm of the world, each bringing their own cultural context to the journey. These differences manifest in behaviors, preferences, and interactions, subtly shaping the story. Eleanor Harrison, an elderly woman with a traditional Western upbringing, values politeness and clear communication. Her calm and composed demeanor reflects a culture of respect and restraint often associated with her generation. Her ability to approach Jessica's behavior with curiosity rather than judgment embodies the wisdom and tact prevalent in her cultural upbringing. The young mother, a South Asian woman traveling with her infant, struggles with the challenges of parenting while navigating societal expectations. Her quiet apologies to nearby passengers when her baby cries highlight cultural values of deference and consideration for others. When Jessica dismisses her concerns, the mother's subtle but pained expression underscores how cultural humility can sometimes clash with abrupt, impersonal authority. Mark Davis, representing an American Midwest ethos, has a calm demeanor and willingness to address Jessica's behavior respectfully. His approach is neither confrontational nor passive, embodying the balance often sought in conflict resolution. Sophia Carter, a younger generation flight attendant, aligns with a cultural shift toward valuing empathy and inclusivity in professional settings. Her willingness to challenge Jessica respectfully demonstrates a modern cultural emphasis on addressing issues constructively rather than avoiding conflict. Jessica's strict adherence to rules and formal tone reflects a corporate culture where professionalism is often equated with emotional detachment. This cultural norm is reinforced by years of training that prioritize efficiency over emotional engagement, especially in high-pressure environments like air travel. The meal service subtly reflects cultural diversity, with options catering to dietary restrictions and preferences such as vegetarian meals, kosher dishes, and halal options. These offerings acknowledge the varied cultural and religious backgrounds of passengers, fostering an inclusive atmosphere. Nonverbal communication plays a significant role in highlighting cultural differences. For instance, the young mother's slight nod and folded hands in gratitude when Sophia helps her with the baby reflect a South Asian cultural norm of respectful acknowledgement. Eleanor's direct but gentle gaze during her conversation with Jessica conveys a cultural emphasis on sincerity and connection. The interactions between Jessica and the passengers emphasize the universal need for empathy. Mark's understanding of Jessica's struggles, despite her rudeness, transcends cultural boundaries, illustrating the power of human connection. Eleanor's reflections on Jessica's behavior draw on generational wisdom, highlighting how cultural values evolve over time. Her approach contrasts with younger passengers like Sophia, who prioritize immediate feedback and open dialogue. Jessica's transformation begins when she recognizes the shared humanity of the people around her. By understanding and respecting their cultural nuances, she starts to break down the walls she's built, allowing for personal growth and reconciliation. Jessica Turner's emotional armor is apparent from the outset. Her stern demeanor, curt tone, and dismissal of passenger concerns suggest a woman who has learned to prioritize efficiency over empathy. Beneath this exterior, however, lies a person weighed down by a history of unresolved trauma and unacknowledged emotions. Jessica's upbringing in a household ruled by control and criticism left her with a fear of vulnerability. Her father's strict discipline and her mother's quiet endurance shaped Jessica's belief that expressing emotions was a sign of weakness. As a result, she constructed emotional walls to shield herself from judgment, a coping mechanism that followed her into adulthood. This pain resurfaces during the flight, particularly when Eleanor Harrison mentions Jessica's mother. Eleanor's gentle probing stirs memories Jessica has worked hard to suppress. Memories of a mother who tried to protect her children, but lacked the strength to escape her own struggles. Jessica's reaction is a mixture of defensiveness and sorrow as she grapples with emotions she has long buried. The emotional climax for Jessica comes during her private conversation with Eleanor. Eleanor's insights pierce through Jessica's defenses, forcing her to confront the truth about her behavior. The revelation that Eleanor knew her mother provides a jarring yet comforting connection to her past. Jessica's tears, initially resisted, become a cathartic release, signaling the start of her emotional healing. Mark Davis serves as a foil to Jessica, embodying patience, kindness, and empathy. However, even Mark's calm demeanor is tested by Jessica's rudeness. His initial frustration stems from a sense of injustice. He believes everyone deserves respect, regardless of the circumstances. Mark's interactions with Jessica evoke a mix of emotions: frustration, disappointment, and a persistent desire to understand her. His role as a teacher influences his approach, Rather than reacting with anger, he chooses to address the issue constructively. However, this approach doesn't make him immune to doubt. At one point, Mark wonders if he should simply ignore Jessica's behavior and avoid the conflict altogether. His decision to speak up reflects his belief in standing up for what's right, even when it's uncomfortable. Mark's empathy becomes evident during his parting words to Jessica. Despite her earlier behavior, he offers her a genuine expression of understanding. "I hope you find the peace you deserve." These words, simple yet profound, carry a weight that resonates with Jessica, planting a seed of self-reflection and hope. Sophia Carter's emotional journey centers on finding her voice and balancing respect with assertiveness. As a new flight attendant, she admires Jessica's professionalism, but struggles with the tension caused by her senior colleague's behavior. Sophia feels torn between her desire to support Jessica and her responsibility to ensure passengers have a positive experience. Her quiet attempts to counteract Jessica's brusqueness, by offering extra help or apologizing on her behalf, reflect her kind nature. However, these efforts leave her feeling invisible and undervalued, fueling her growing frustration. Sophia's breakthrough comes when she confronts Jessica during a quiet moment in the crew area. Though nervous, she speaks from the heart, expressing her concerns with a blend of honesty and respect. This act of courage not only strengthens Sophia's confidence, but also marks a turning point in her relationship with Jessica, who begins to see her as more than just a subordinate. Eleanor Harrison's role as the story's emotional anchor stems from her ability to see beyond surface-level behavior. As a retired psychologist, Eleanor approaches Jessica's rudeness not with irritation, but with curiosity and compassion. Eleanor recognizes the pain hidden beneath Jessica's brusque exterior. Her decision to engage Jessica in conversation is driven by a belief in the power of understanding and connection. Eleanor's calm demeanor and gentle words create a safe space for Jessica to lower her defenses, allowing a meaningful dialogue to unfold. Eleanor's revelation about knowing Jessica's mother serves as a bridge between the past and the present. Her words, "Your mother spoke about your strength, even when you didn't see it," resonate deeply with Jessica, providing a sense of validation and comfort. Eleanor's wisdom and kindness not only help Jessica begin her journey of healing, but also underscore the story's central theme, the transformative power of empathy. Throughout the story, key moments highlight the characters' emotional growth and their impact on one another. When Eleanor collapses, Jessica's instinct to take charge demonstrates her professionalism. However, her subsequent conversation with Eleanor reveals a softer side, as she begins to open up and confront her own vulnerabilities. Sophia's decision to address Jessica directly marks a turning point in her journey toward self-assurance. Her courage inspires Jessica to reevaluate her behavior, showing how even small acts of bravery can have a ripple effect. Mark's calm yet firm confrontation with Jessica challenges her to reflect on her actions. His empathy, even in the face of her defensiveness, serves as a catalyst for change. By the end of the flight, Jessica's interactions with passengers and colleagues reflect a noticeable shift. Her apology to Sophia and her kind gesture toward the young mother demonstrate her growing willingness to embrace vulnerability and kindness. The cabin of the airplane is a carefully controlled environment, blending functionality with a sterile sense of order. Rows of tightly packed seats, upholstered in muted shades of gray and blue, line the narrow aisle that stretches from the cockpit to the rear. The soft hum of the engines reverberates through the space, punctuated by occasional creaks and groans as the plane shifts in midair. Overhead, bins loom above the passengers, their brushed metal exteriors gleaming under the cool white light of the cabin. The windows, small and oval-shaped, frame fleeting glimpses of the vast sky outside, clouds rolling like waves in an endless ocean, their edges kissed by sunlight. The atmosphere inside feels compact, almost claustrophobic, amplified by the mingling scents of reheated meals, coffee, and faintly metallic air. Passengers are a mosaic of personalities and emotions, their expressions ranging from weary to curious, tense to relaxed. Some flip through magazines or scroll on their phones, while others settle into their seats with a resigned sigh. The chatter of conversation ebbs and flows, a gentle murmur that contrasts with the more deliberate movements of the flight attendants. Jessica Turner, the lead flight attendant, is the epitome of precision and professionalism. Her uniform, a crisp navy blue blazer paired with a neatly pressed skirt, is immaculate, not a wrinkle in sight. A silk scarf knotted expertly at her neck adds a touch of elegance to her otherwise severe appearance. Her dark hair is pulled back into a flawless bun, emphasizing the sharp lines of her cheekbones and the faint shadow under her eyes. A subtle sign of exhaustion she meticulously conceals. Her posture is rigid, every movement purposeful as she navigates the cabin. The corners of her mouth are perpetually turned down, giving her an air of aloofness that passengers find intimidating. Her eyes, a piercing shade of gray, flick over the rows with practiced efficiency, scanning for anything out of place. Yet behind the cold professionalism lies a flicker of vulnerability, visible only in unguarded moments when her facade briefly cracks. Mark Davis, a schoolteacher in his late 30s, exudes an air of calm dependability. His slightly rumpled sweater and comfortable jeans reflect his unpretentious nature, while his warm brown eyes and soft smile suggest a gentle demeanor. As he sits in his seat, he glances occasionally at the flight attendants, his gaze lingering for a moment longer on Jessica. He seems to sense the underlying tension in the air, but his patience remains unwavering, as if he believes that kindness and understanding are the keys to resolving even the most uncomfortable situations. Sophia Carter, a young flight attendant in her mid-20s, moves through the cabin with an energy that contrasts with Jessica's clinical efficiency. Her uniform is slightly less polished, the collar of her blouse a touch askew, and a few stray hairs escaping from her ponytail. Yet there's a brightness in her eyes and a warmth in her smile that draws people in. She's still learning the ropes, observing Jessica's every move, but there's a sense of empathy and intuition in her interactions with passengers that suggest she's destined for a career of meaningful connections. Eleanor Harrison, an elderly woman in her 70s, sits near the window, gazing out at the clouds. Her once vibrant features are softened with age, and her silver hair is styled in a neat bob. She wears a cardigan in a soft shade of lavender, and a thin gold chain rests gently against her collarbone. Her expression is peaceful, but her sharp eyes take in the dynamics of the cabin with quiet observation. Though she rarely engages in conversation with other passengers, her gentle presence is like a quiet anchor in the midst of the chaos of the flight. The conflict between Jessica and the passengers reflects the contrasting ways in which cultural differences shape interactions. While Jessica's approach is shaped by a professional, almost impersonal mindset, the passengers reflect a range of cultural backgrounds that emphasize empathy, connection, and understanding. Through these interactions, Jessica's growth as a character unfolds, revealing the power of vulnerability and emotional engagement. Jessica's reply was simple, but heartfelt. "Thank you, Mark. I think I just might." After the passengers had disembarked, Jessica and Sophia remained to tidy the cabin. For the first time, Jessica initiated a conversation with her younger colleague. "Sophia," she began, "I owe you an apology. I haven't been the easiest person to work with, and I've been unfair to you." Sophia, surprised but pleased, smiled. "Thank you, Jessica. That means a lot." Jessica hesitated before continuing. "You were right earlier. Kindness isn't a weakness. It's something I need to work on." Sophia's smile widened. "We all have things to work on, but for what it's worth, I think you're stronger than you realize." As they finished their tasks, Jessica felt a sense of hope she hadn't experienced in years. The flight, with all its challenges and revelations, had been a turning point. That evening, Jessica sat in her small apartment, reflecting on the events of the day. She opened her laptop and began searching for counselors in her area. For the first time, she felt ready to face her past and start rebuilding her future. The story ends on a note of optimism, with Jessica taking the first steps toward healing and growth. Mark and Eleanor's kindness, combined with Sophia's courage, served as catalysts for her transformation, illustrating the impact of empathy and connection. Jessica's journey reminds readers that even the strongest walls can be broken down with compassion and understanding. By addressing her unresolved pain, she begins to reclaim her life, opening herself up to a future filled with possibilities. As the airplane taxied to its gate, the passengers gathered their belongings, some eager to disembark, others taking a moment to reflect on the journey they had shared. For Jessica Turner, the flight had been far more than another day at work. It had been a crucible of transformation. The challenges, confrontations, and revelations she faced forced her to confront her past and reevaluate the walls she had built to protect herself. Jessica's journey throughout the story was one of profound growth. She began as a woman hardened by years of emotional repression and the burden of unresolved trauma. Her brusque demeanor and rigid control were not born from malice, but from a deep-seated fear of vulnerability. The flight, however, became a turning point, as each interaction with the passengers and her colleagues chipped away at the armor she had constructed. Eleanor Harrison's gentle yet piercing insights served as a mirror for Jessica, reflecting truths she had long avoided. By revealing her connection to Jessica's mother, Eleanor bridged the gap between Jessica's past and present, showing her that strength lies not in isolation, but in connection. Eleanor's words planted the seed of self-awareness that would guide Jessica toward healing. Mark Davis's calm yet firm confrontation with Jessica was another pivotal moment. He challenged her to see the impact of her actions on others while offering her the understanding and empathy she so desperately needed. His parting words, "I hope you find the peace you deserve," resonated deeply, reminding Jessica that kindness and respect are universal currencies that can mend even the most fractured relationships. Sophia Carter's willingness to address Jessica's behavior demonstrated that even small acts of bravery can spark meaningful change. Her respectful confrontation and unwavering belief in kindness showed Jessica the importance of balancing professionalism with empathy. By the end of the flight, their relationship had evolved from one of tension to mutual respect and budding friendship. Each character in the story experienced growth and resolution in their own way. Jessica Turner. The central figure of the story, Jessica emerged from the flight with a renewed sense of purpose and a commitment to change. Her decision to seek counseling marked the beginning of her journey toward healing and self-discovery. By embracing vulnerability, she opened the door to building deeper connections with those around her. Mark Davis. Mark's calm demeanor and unwavering compassion reinforced his belief in the power of kindness. His willingness to engage with Jessica, even when faced with resistance, demonstrated the strength of his character and his commitment to making a difference. Sophia Carter. Sophia found her voice during the flight, learning to balance respect with assertiveness. Her actions not only helped Jessica recognize her flaws, but also strengthened Sophia's confidence in her ability to effect change, both personally and professionally. Eleanor Harrison. As the story's emotional anchor, Eleanor fulfilled her role as a wise observer and gentle guide. Her calm approach and willingness to share her insights had a transformative impact on Jessica, cementing her legacy as a figure of quiet strength and understanding. The story's central themes revolve around empathy, resilience, and the power of connection. Each interaction and revelation reinforced the idea that no one is beyond redemption and that growth is always possible, no matter how deeply rooted one's pain may seem. Jessica's journey highlighted the importance of embracing vulnerability as a path to healing. By acknowledging her pain and seeking help, she demonstrated that true strength lies in confronting one's fears and opening up to others. The actions of Mark, Sophia, and Eleanor showed how even small gestures of kindness can have a profound impact. Their willingness to understand and support Jessica created a ripple effect, inspiring her to make meaningful changes in her life. The confined setting of the airplane cabin served as a microcosm of human interaction, where cultural differences and personal struggles intersected. The story underscored the value of perspective, reminding readers that everyone carries unseen burdens and that empathy is key to bridging divides. As the airplane emptied and the flight attendants prepared for their next journey, Jessica lingered for a moment, gazing out of the window. The sky, vast and ever-changing, mirrored the possibilities that lay ahead. For the first time in years, she felt a glimmer of hope, a belief that the future could be different if she was willing to work for it. Jessica's decision to seek counseling and rebuild her relationships marked the beginning of a new chapter in her life. She resolved to approach her work with renewed empathy, treating each interaction as an opportunity to connect rather than control. Her transformation, though still in its infancy, was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. The story leaves readers with a powerful takeaway. Every person has a story, often hidden behind layers of behavior and defense mechanisms. By choosing to lead with empathy and understanding, we can create spaces for healing and growth, both for ourselves and others. The characters' journeys remind us that change is always within reach, but it requires courage, humility, and the willingness to confront our inner struggles. As the airplane soared toward its next destination, the echoes of this transformative flight lingered in the hearts of those who had experienced it. And for Jessica Turner, the sky was no longer just a workplace. It was a symbol of freedom, possibility, and the limitless potential for change.